Welcome to the March 17th Goffstown Select Board. This is our regular meeting. Would you please all join me in Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have, as our first meeting, we have two new selectmen joining us tonight. And we need to, first thing we're going to need to do is swear them in. So I will give you, we have to sign these, but I'm going to give you each one to read. Here's one for Josh. And then here's one for Richard. You always stand up, raise your right hand, and you need to read that. Aye, go ahead.
I, Joshua
Richard W.
Douglas,
Manzo of 15-6 Oakwood Circle,
17 Tyler Drive, Goffstown, New Hampshire.
do solemnly
Do
swear that I will bear faith and true allegiance
to the United States of America and to the state of New Hampshire, and will support the Constitution thereof, so help me God.
Next one.
I, Richard Manzo,
I,
do
Joshua
solemnly and
Douglas,
sincerely
do
swear
solemnly swear
and affirm that I will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform
the
all
duties
duties incumbent on me as a member of the Select Board,
according to the best of my abilities, agreeable to the rules and regulations of the Constitution and laws of the state of New Hampshire, so help me God.
So when congratulations
Thank you.
to both of you.
Thank you, Peter.
Make sure you all sign them and give them back to me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll catch up with you
Give
guys.
that back.
Absolutely, Mark.
Here. You guys need to sign all of these.
One for each of us.
Yeah, there should be two sets. We're doing that, we'll move on to the accept and correction of minutes. Now, I didn't get the minutes emailed to me, but you say now that they're online?
They were put online today, so you can postpone this to your next meeting.
Okay.
And what I'll do is I'm going to add all the select board members as an automatic feed, so when it does get posted online, you'll get a notification.
That'd be great.
So what I got today, was that right or wrong?
Did you get a notification?
Yeah, I did.
Yep, so you're already signed up, so yes,
Okay.
the ones
All right.
online,
Okay,
but,
I just wanted to know if there was something different.
yeah, because we did,
I didn't see them today.
you're probably not signed up for the notifications or our website, so
Okay.
I'll sign you up.
All right. And then we don't have any announcements. And is there anybody here for public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to select board discussion. And first business would be elect the chair. If you go to section 5, it'll tell you the rules and how we operate. The chair shall be elected at the first regular meeting of the board after the town meeting or the first meeting after the establishment of a temporary committee. The chair shall have the authority to set and approve meetings, agendas, and shall have the same rights and privileges and the responsibilities as other members. And then the chair appoints a vice chair. So we need to take a motion on a chair.
I'll appoint Peter Georgianis as chairman of the board.
Seconded.
Okay, we have a motion by Mark, it was seconded by Richard. Any discussion, comments? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, the motion passes.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Not that I haven't been there before, right? And another procedure is appoint a vice chair. And Mark has done it before, so if Mark wants to be the vice chair, I'd be more than happy to
Yes, sir,
have
I
him
accept.
entertain. Great. Now, we do have the rules and procedures. I don't know, we have them with us. Are they in here?
Well, so the next item I actually have is your 2025 committee appointments. If you look at page 2 of your packet, you have all the committees and the role for which each select board member or select board position would serve on those roles. Some are voting representatives, some are voting, and if it says ex officio, that's really dictated by state law. So normally what we do is members express their preference for which ones work best and would let the the chair know by email, and he'll make those appointments at the meeting next week on the 24th.
Or if there's a meeting in between, I would, if somebody's gonna be put on it, I would notify them ahead of time,
Yeah.
let everybody know.
Yeah.
But as soon as you get them to me, I can get right on it, and, you put your choices, 1, 2, 3, and there's 13 positions for 5 of us to cover, so, that would be the best, and we can get moved right on with it. I think there are meetings already scheduled for this week, right?
Yeah, there are 2 this week, so when we get to that point in the town administrator's report, we'll just look for some volunteers
Okay.
for those.
Then we have, there's a meeting schedule, and it's a draft for the year, and it moves sometimes due to holidays, and, it could be because of elections or anything, but we'd like to adopt this schedule. That way, it gives everybody an idea right up until March of '26 when the meetings are gonna be. Anybody got a problem with doing that?
No.
Motion?
Motion. Good.
Motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
The
Or the
Meeting schedule.
The meeting schedule, yes.
Sure.
Second.
Motion, well, I got one.
I just gave you my checks.
Oh, jeez. Motion by Richard, seconded by Jim. Any discussion,
Sorry,
questions?
didn't mean to screw you up.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes. Section, we have the rules that we follow. Procedures of the select board, committee appointed by the select board. So if you, I don't know if we want to go through all this tonight, but I would suggest you read it. And any questions or discussion on it, we can take it up at the next meeting.
Yeah, so typically what we've done is we've presented this to the select board. I do have a couple recommended changes. If you look at page 14 on your packet, just for clarification, to clarify, I've changed CIP to Capital Improvement Program Committee. We've added in the Goffstown River Advisory Committee that was created last year by charter, and that is the select board rep is a voting member but also chairs that committee, and they meet monthly. And then we removed the wellness committee. We'll be coming back to you with a revised wellness policy this year. Of some changes that we want to make. The wellness committee has not been active in the last couple of years, so we feel it'd be best to remove that from your rules of procedure, but then bring back a new wellness policy in 2025. But if it's a board's preference, I can continue this on to next week's agenda. That way, if board members have any recommended changes they'd like to see.
Yeah, I think we should do that. We're doing a lot tonight, so there's probably not that much on next week's agenda anyway. Thanks.
Next week's gonna be pretty busy too.
If you go to 5-6, we're going to have the town meeting results.
Yeah, so I did not put the individual warrant language in here, but as you're aware, the general fund and sewer fund, both their operating budgets passed. The firefighter CBA passed overwhelmingly. That was almost 2/3 majority voted for that. So we are finalizing the signature copy, and we'll be sending it over to the union for their signature this week, so that we can get your signature. The deposit into the fire apparatus capital reserve fund from unassigned fund balance, that passed overwhelmingly. So we will have an action item for you next week to send that deposit to the trustees of the trust fund. We have to do that within 20 days of town meeting. Additional road plan funding did fail, so there is that item.
Not by much.
Not by much, but that'll be something to note as we go into budgeting for next year. There was the modification of the cable access revolving fund. Previously, 30% of the cable franchise fee came to the general fund, but now 100% will go to cable access revolving fund. There's a modification of the solar energy systems exemption. Previously, the exemption was capped at $10,000. It's now capped at $20,000 of value. And then I guess there are 2 items on here that are both submitted by petition. We'd be looking for guidance from the select board on how you want to proceed with this. The first was petition Article 16. It was a $0 appropriation for an operational efficiency study of town departments. That did pass at town meeting. So I need, I guess, some direction from the board on if that's something that you want to go out to bid for to see what the cost was. You would have to do a budget transfer if you were going to do that. We'd have to find money in other lines if you were going to do that type of study. And then the other one that we would need direction on is the posting of the check register on the town website. That was petition Article 17. We had talked about this prior to town meeting, and staff will be prepared at a future meeting to present to you some different options on what type of information we can pull from the financial system and how frequently we think we can post to the website without being, you know, a huge undertaking.
And that article was recommended by the select board. So when we had to do that, and that was under the advice of town administrator and finance, that it wasn't that big of a deal for us to do.
So will we be getting that at the next meeting?
Yeah, we'll try and have that for you for the next meeting. We felt, when we presented this to the select board in January, we felt simply a date, a check number, amount, and who it's being paid to doesn't really provide a lot of information. So we're also seeing if we can add in the comments that may be in our accounts payable that go on the warrant that you see, or at least what expense lines it hits, because we think that just by putting a vendor's name and amount out there, that may create more questions than it answers.
Right. Did the bank provide any guidance on the things?
Yes, and we'll provide that feedback to you as
Okay.
well. We currently do positive pay, so whenever we run an account payable, we send them a file with all the vendors' check number and check amount, so they check against that anytime somebody tries to cash a check. And we have been in talks with our bank about what their best practices are, so we don't put the town at risk.
Perfect.
And then on the appropriation, zero appropriation, I guess we could go out and get a quote on it. I would think we would,
Like we don't have to put money aside to get the quote, is what you're asking?
right,
Peter?
go, yeah, for an RFP or whatever, request for a proposal.
Yeah,
I would
absolutely.
think-
You could see
I would-
that type of study
It
would.
did pass, not by a huge margin, but it passed, so I think, seeing that it passed, we should go ahead and at least make that step. And if anything comes and it's a little bit more expensive, well, then we may be able to include it in next year's budget instead of this year's.
I think we have to define what the efficiency study would be though first, correct?
Yes, you would.
Yeah.
So I would recommend that you direct town administration to develop a draft RFP to bring back to you for consideration. And then you can modify that before we send that out.
And you'll work with the other department heads to determine the efficiency study for each of their departments?
Yes. Yep. So it wouldn't be on the next meeting, but I would get that to you for the first meeting in April, the April 14th
Yeah,
meeting.
well, like I said, I think if it's gonna be dollars involved, if we just got all the information, put it together, we find that we can fund it, fine. If not, we'll put it in the next year.
Yeah,
That's,
yeah, that seems like the right move.
So I make a motion that we have town administration put an RFP proposal together for us. Is that good enough?
Yeah, that's fine.
yep.
Second.
Motion by Joshua, seconded by Mark. Any further discussions, questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes. Old business. Do you have any old business?
No, but I do believe there was one item of new business. I think Selectman Douglas, you had something that you wanted to bring up for a future meeting?
I did for next meeting.
Yeah.
I sent an email off to all of us, and we may not have seen it yet, to see about digitizing our signatures to allow for less use of paper and also faster response of some of the items that maybe the select board or even others have to sign.
So there are laws in under state law that allow for digital signatures, and there are other towns that have sample policies. So if the board is in favor of at least looking into it further, I can bring a few sample policies to you next week.
Is next week
Yep.
enough time to do that research, or would you
For-
rather
For the sample policies, to at least see where you want to go, we can bring a couple of samples with you. It might not be the final one for adoption, but we can at least bring you and highlight some of the differences between the two, and then you can kind of decide if it's something you want to pursue further.
Well, it depends on your workload. I mean, how much workload in the next week?
I can't write a new policy, but like I said, I can pull some of the sampled ones and highlight the differences and kind of have you maybe direct us more, and then we can maybe have a final policy for acceptance in April, if that's something you want to move forward. And then also, we would have to define what it could be used for, because the select board, for the most part, has to do all action at a meeting. However, you review the AP warrants and the payroll warrants and stuff like that. So we can just define that as well. But yeah, I think we can have some preliminary information to you for next week.
And would those forms also be used by the department heads digitally also?
Potentially, yes.
It could be, it could ease their life a little bit.
Yep. Currently, department heads review all special event permit applications and a handful of other things. We do send those electronically, but we don't have a actual digital signature policy, so.
And, okay, well, we'll find out when we get over there. Still have lots of questions on what kind of information can be done over the internet as far as that.
Yeah, we can have that all detailed for you next week.
Yeah, okay, all right, that's fine.
You need a motion for that too, Darren?
No, that's fine.
Let's have the police chief come up for the action, and we'll do the highway safety recommendations.
Your tab number 6 in your packet.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
So this quarter, we met, reference a few items. I'll bring you to the first one, which I believe is in your packet, is Montalona Road, East Dunbarton.
Yes.
Grady Hill and the Grady Hill stop sign. So, the Highway Safety Committee looked at two separate, but almost on the same requester on having a stop sign placed on the corner of Montalona Road and East Dunbarton. This is the same requester that requested several years back. We've already done a study on that area, and the Highway Safety Committee back then did not recommend any action be taken. So this person put it back through, we again looked at it, and the Highway Safety Committee voted to take no action to place a stop sign on the corner of Montalona Road and East Dunbarton Road. And at the same person also at the same time requested us to put a stop sign at the intersection of Grady Hill Road and Montalona Road. And Highway Safety in their meeting determined that we take no action on that either, based on there's no line of sight issue and there's no accident data presented. So at this point, for those two different requests from the same requester, Highway Safety voted 4-0 to take no action on both of those.
Okay, go on, let's just do them all at the end.
Okay. The next one we had was a little bit different. This came from the planning board. They sent it to us on behalf of Joanne Duffy, who's the planning board director. They're having a community center on the house. There's a house in the corner of Mass Road and Preston Street, which they are going to convert into a community center. And part of their planning, some of the neighbors on Preston Street came to the planning committee and had voiced their concerns about cars parking on Preston going into the community center and causing a traffic issue or / parking issue on Preston Street. There was very limited information given to the Highway Safety Committee in this particular meeting. We have no development. We have a very basic plan that was sent to us after the meeting was completed. There was a lot of conversation about this might be too early for us to take any action on, but there were some thoughts of trying to be a little bit proactive by maybe putting in on Preston Street and on Marion Street, actually putting a sign that says no parking from here to intersection, which by law, you cannot park within an intersection. So at least that way we're proactively putting a sign up saying, hey, this is a no parking area. There's also a fire hydrant that's right up just past that might play into that no parking zone. But at this point, we went through the initial parts of this traffic or parking related issue that we haven't really seen if there is going to be an issue or not, as the plan hasn't been completed and they haven't started developing this yet. So what we did was we took no action on putting up a no parking. I guess the initial request was to have no parking on Preston Street, the entire length. We didn't want to take that up as that would cause a town ordinance. We didn't want to go through that route right now as highway safety. So what we did was we took no action on that, but we did talk about installing a no parking sign per state law, having that 30-foot separation from the intersection on both Preston Street and Marion Street. Because where this community center sits, or the future community center, is adjacent to a daycare. And on that side of the daycare, Marion Street runs parallel to Preston on Mass Road. So we figured if they can't park on this side, they're most likely going to try to park on Marion, which is going to be another traffic issue or parking issue on that side as well. So that's the recommendation that came from Highway Safety at this point regarding that particular parking issue, or thought of a parking issue.
I attended that meeting, and it's very confusing. We can put those signs up no matter what, because it's state law.
Yes,
So
if we choose to.
We should go ahead in that, but I'm really thinking on this particular one, we need to take another look at it. I said, what's the parking, when I was over there, drove by there yesterday, today, and what happens if they start parking on Mass Road? We're gonna put no parking signs on Mass Road, so they can't park in front of that building, or in front of the whole line there? I mean, there's a lot of questions still I have about the parking at that location.
Is there any parking there for them?
So currently, the plan is showing, because the house with the driveway.
Yeah.
The plan is showing a few parking spots for the business itself once it's developed. Whether or not there's adequate parking, I'm not sure, based on the plan. The planning board would have to answer that, if it's within regs or not.
And they're borrowing parking spots from the daycare. So it's kind of, but like, we're more concerned about the traffic and parking and, people, and it's just like any daycare or dance studio or anything, they have a special thing and all of a sudden.
It's gonna line up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that we need to take a look at. Go ahead, I think we should go ahead with the state law signs.
Okay.
And then take another look at it, saying, we're tabling this, or however we want to do it. Take another look at it in the future after we get a better set of plans.
Okay. I can definitely start working a little bit more in depth with the planning board, or at least Joanne, to kind of give our opinion on that. And then if it comes to highway safety again, we can go through this part again. And the last one we took was from an individual in town who requested that we have an ordinance that makes every single neighborhood in our community 5 miles an hour. The Highway Safety Committee immediately took no action on even entertaining this, as the state law does not require this. The only reason why I did not bring this to the board in June and July, as that's usually when we bring all of our speed limit reductions in town to that one meeting in July, is because we just knew this wasn't going to go to a traffic study. We knew this wasn't going to be entertained. So I just wanted to get this off the plate of the Highway Safety Committee and present it to you guys. So we took no action, nothing that we need to do for this. So, and that's all we had for that particular quarterly meeting.
Okay, so let's take the first one up with recommendation of no action by the Highway Safety Commission. Take a motion.
I'll make that motion per the request of the Highway Safety Committee that we take no action for the intersection of East Dunbarton Road, Grady Hill, and Montalona and Grady Hill.
Second.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Josh. Any further discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes. Let's go to the second one. And this is just gonna be to put the
So this would be direct DPW to install no parking signs.
per
within-
state law
Per
on
state law.
Preston and Marion.
Yes.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Jim, seconded by Mark. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes.
And the last one for the neighborhoods, per the Highway Safety Committee, they recommend no action, so I'll go with the no action at this time.
Seconded.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Richard. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes.
Next
All right.
question, what is the lowest speed limit?
25.
I'm sorry?
25.
25, okay, thanks.
10 to 20 in school zone by law. But we only put 25 in there. We try to focus on
Okay, let's move on to the committee meeting schedule.
Yes, on tab 7A of your packet, you have the committee meeting schedule for this week. Wednesday night at 6:30 PM, the Library Board of Trustees will meet at the Public Library. In the last year, I know it was Chairman Georgianis, but I don't know if you're available Wednesday or you want to see if somebody else.
Let me put that together, 'cause I know there's two people that want to do it, so.
Okay.
I want to talk to them,
So
okay?
you just let them know?
I'll
Okay.
let them know.
And then Wednesday, 7 PM, Parks and Rec Commission will meet at the Parks and
You're
Rec
going to
building.
do that again? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And then next week's schedule, we're going to have a meeting, so I'll make it different.
So at your next page, you have your consent agenda for this week. You have an employee status report, full-time hourly dispatcher. This is a new hire. And then you have an event permit for the Rotary Club Car Show on Saturday, June 7th from 9 AM to 2 PM. And the location is Parsons Field. The cemetery trustees did approve the use of this property for this special event.
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by Jim, seconded by Mark. Any discussion, questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes.
At tab 7C, I have a memo as well as an email from Health Trust and a quick FAQ that they put together. There's proposed legislation moving through the Senate right now, Senate Bill 297, and it is coming out of the Senate Finance Committee with an ought to pass with amendment. So this proposed legislation looks to change some of the rules regarding pooled risk management. So the town's health insurance provider it's not a traditional health insurance, it's actually a pooled risk, it's a managed risk pool that's created for cities, towns, village districts, other political subdivisions. And what you do is, by pooling everybody together, some of your large health insurance costs get taken care of by the full pool, and then each town their rates are determined by their individual use, their member usage. So what this would do is this creates the requirement that all participating members need to set up a capital reserve fund, and they need to set aside 4% of their annual payments for a health pool. So what that would mean for us, and again, this is only for health. We also we have a risk pool for our property liability insurance, workers' comp, and unemployment through Primex. But the legislation is specific to health and dental pools that that each town would need to set aside 4% of their annual contributions. So the concerns that I have as staff is specifically the amendment as it's coming out of the Senate Finance Committee right now requires that town set up a capital reserve fund. As you may be aware, a capital reserve fund can only be approved and created and established at town meeting by the voters. So the question we would have is if town meeting were to reject creation of this capital reserve fund, does that mean the town is automatically no longer allowed to participate in those managed risk pool and therefore look to private insurance? And that's a concern for us because these risk pools were created in the late 80s when a lot of towns and schools were finding it difficult to find affordable insurance for their members. One of the unique things that we have that's different than a lot of employers is we have full-time police officers and full-time firefighters, and occupations do contribute to your health insurance rates. The other thing is Health Trust provides us with quite a few services as part of these rates. They administer our FSA funds for healthcare and dependent childcare. They also provide employee assistance programs, and then they also work with our retirees. Our retirees that receive a pension from a New Hampshire retirement system are able to have, if they have a town insurance program, again, retirees are required to pay 100% of the rates, but we do have some plans specifically tailored to retirees, like a wraparound plan for Medicare and Medicaid. So Health Trust actually provides services that they collect the money directly from New Hampshire Retirement System, whereas we would have to determine if a private insurer could do those same things. So I guess what I'm looking for is to answer any questions the board might have. But at this time, my biggest concern is, and I'd like to communicate this to Goffstown State Senator as well as our state reps, is we're very concerned about the requirement that reserves be held in a capital reserve fund. Because if town meeting does not establish that capital reserve fund, you're putting towns and political subdivisions in a very difficult spot where they might have to kind of rush to go out and get private insurance and have additional costs that they have to pass along to the employees as well as the taxpayers.
Well, that's one of my questions there, is that High Trust, from my understanding, the way it read, they're providing services of like an HR department in some cases too, because they're facilitating discussions with the insurer.
Yes, absolutely. A lot of times when somebody's going to have a medical procedure, we will help them as much as we can, but a lot of times we will tell them, if you contact Health Trust, they're able to coordinate and talk directly with Anthem and just say, okay, how much, what this person has this plan, how much is going to be covered, what's their out-of-pocket expense. So they provide a lot of those HR services that kind of shifts the burden from our employees.
Which means that we may have to hire somebody to take care of that if we go another route,
Potentially.
which
yes.
could impact the taxpayers.
Yes.
So, on the capital reserve fund, would that have to be voted on every year?
So the way the legislation reads right now, so this is going to the Senate on Thursday under their consent calendar. It reads that you have to have a 4% reserve, and that's 4% of your annual contributions to health insurance would have to go in that. And you can build it up over the first 4 years. So they're saying you can put in 1% until you get to 4%. But I have, there's the assumption that healthcare costs are going to rise, rates are going to rise. Eventually that 4% isn't going to be 4% anymore. So you're going to have to go back to the voters at town meeting again, and
That's
you're going
my
to ask for
question.
them to deposit further funds into that capital reserve fund. So I mean, the capital reserve fund may not be the best mechanism, and perhaps by alerting to the Senate to this, they might be able to look into additional legislation to find a different type of fund that might be better than a capital reserve fund. Because again, a capital reserve fund can only be established by town meeting. You can only deposit it into it at town meeting.
And so if that wasn't approved by the voters, would we give up all insurance at that point in time? Like, how would that work?
Unclear. So what the amendment says is that a political subdivision shall establish a reserve fund, and they point directly to RSA 34 and 35. Those are the capital reserve fund statutes. So if that fails at town meeting, I don't know if you get another shot the next year, or it's unclear.
Well, my understanding too is that when you come out of that risk pool, you have to wait 3 years before you can get back into it.
So if we were to leave the risk pool and go with another risk pool, so there are other risk pools, school care is one, they also service towns. But yeah, if you leave Health Trust, you're out for 2 years. So you're out for 2 full years. And what we've heard some communities go the private side where they'll self-insure directly and work with like a Harvard Pilgrim or Anthem directly. And the first year the rates are comparable, but then when they go for that second year, that's where they tend to get hit hard, and then they have to wait that whole second year before they can go back to the risk pool.
So
Okay.
it could be pretty detrimental to all the
Yeah, I think
taxpayers
so.
by doing this.
All right, so can I get a recommendation?
I'll move that we authorize the town administrator to correspond with New Hampshire State Senator Murphy and Goffstown State representatives about the concerns of Senate Bill 297 as amended.
Second.
Motion by Jim, seconded by Joshua. Any questions? Input? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes.
Thank you. I'll send that out, and I'll copy all the board members on the correspondence with the state senators and representatives.
Thanks, Derek.
Do you have anything else?
I do not.
Do we have anybody here for public comment? Seeing none, all in favor? Seeing none, we'll close public comment and make a motion. Mark?
I got one other thing
Oh, go ahead.
before we get into it. We had discussion about is there enough money, or can we pay the people that work for elections and the people that are on the committees?
You want to reinstate the
Correct.
stipends,
Yes.
which is approximately $38,000, am I correct?
Yeah, so, if you give me just a second, I did work up, a workup on this item. So, as you may recall, the Budget Committee zeroed some lines that had stipends for elected officials. There was the Select Board member stipends, which were in the proposed budget for $453.98 per month, and that was a total of $27,238.80. Supervisors of the checklist, there are three, that was $250 a month for a total of $9,000. And then the moderator is for $300 per election. So those totaled $36,538.80. We had not stopped the payment of those monthly stipends for January, February, and March. So yes, we would welcome some direction from the Select Board on how you want to proceed. I can provide the board if you want to discuss that this evening. The other thing is we, through our managers listserv, we do have kind of what the average is for Select Board and Town Council statewide to kind of show what some of those averages are. The state average for a governing body is just under $3,300 a year. And in Hillsborough County, it's a little bit less, but again, this is only by those communities that responded to the informal surveys. There's about 2,800. Again, there's been no analysis of the number of meetings, the form of government, or anything regarding those, but those are just the average. So some of those, you might have a town council with 9 members, so the stipends are a little bit smaller.
But more,
Yeah.
but
So,
more money.
yes, so, if you want to discuss that this evening, I'll leave that up to you, or we could bring further more information at a future meeting.
Well, we got until Monday's meeting before this go into the next month, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Well, I'm up for discussing it tonight, and I don't know about anybody else, but Mark, you brought it up.
Yeah, I mean, these people work countless hours. They're the voted people that work for the town, work for the community. And some of them, this past voting, it was a easy election. Some of them worked 8, 10 hours, if not more. And to not pay them, I don't believe is fair. They should be entitled to a chunk of money. And if we have the money that's available in the budget, then let's pay them.
I think my question would be is, are any of the positions required to work certain hours by state law? And if so, does that make them a volunteer still or not? Because if they're required to work, because I do believe like the supervisor of the checklist has required hours.
Supervisory checklists do have required meetings. Select Board has required duties. And in New Hampshire state law, and I'll look back to Danielle for some guidance, there's employees, there's volunteers, but then there's elected officials. It's almost, it's a third category.
She's
So,
shaking her head.
yeah, so those are, all of these ones fall under that third category, elected officials. So, so some towns, each town handles it a little bit differently.
Well, I think for us that have been here for a while, when we ran, when we were elected with a stipend. And the taxpayers elected us 3-year terms. Mark and Jim just got elected last year. You guys just got elected this year. I'm almost got 1 more year left. We were elected with a stipend. The people said, we're going to pay you this amount of money to do this job. And so I'm for reinstating, and I'm sure we've been short-staffed in the couple of departments that we could probably make some budget transfers, like we've done in the past, to cover other things from short staff monies. And I'm sure there's other funds we'll be able to find out. Jim?
I want to go on the record. I agree. I think the Budget Committee did a fabulous job last year, but I thought this was overboard, taking money away from people work like they do, and I've seen them work. You know, I
Almost
just
seems
thought
like
that
they have a
was,
vendetta.
it was a little
I don't
over
go as
the,
far as that.
it was a little over the top, and it's not, yeah, and I agree with you guys.
New guys?
Yeah, my position is that I knew I wasn't gonna get anything coming in, number one. And I'm okay with that. I didn't come here for the money, came here to help the town. But I do have a bit of a conflict of interest personally, because, you know, my wife is on the
Both got conflict of interest.
Right, but I knew that I wasn't gonna get paid, so for me to vote for it, I can't vote one way or another. That's where I'm at.
So you're gonna stay. Richard?
I would appreciate if we could take the two issues separately, the supervisors and the select board, because I'm happy to vote to reinstate the supervisors' stipend. I just feel like, not that you guys have ever done anything wrong by continuously approving it, I just feel like I couldn't personally vote to pay myself out of other people's money. That's just my view on it.
Okay, I agree. I won't separate it though, because it's stipend, the budget committee took a stipend out totally, so I would not separate it.
I do have a question. If I chose to not get paid, is that something that I could do?
If one of the members chose not to receive their stipend? So
Get donated back,
it's a
or-
little bit different when we have workers. But if an elected official chose not to take their stipend?
The way we were looking at it, when it's come up in the past, has been that it's the same, that the other people in the exact same positions are compensated with the same stipend. So I would say that if somebody wanted to decline the stipend, that they would have to go through the process of having it essentially issued to them and then repaying it through a donation, but you'd have to go through the procedure to have it accepted.
We can probably check with
We'll double check.
NHMA
Yep.
and we can have a better answer to that question.
Go ahead, Mark.
So, at this time, if it's all right with the committee, we won't take any action on it tonight. We'll let Derek and Danielle do the homework, and when we come back next,
Homework for what?
well, he,
I think it would just be clarifying, so we've had people that work at the polls, and they've said, I wanna volunteer my time. State law is very clear, when you have election workers that you are directing their work, you can't pay some of them and allow others to volunteer. That actually you cannot do. Because you fall into that third category and the other, fall into that other category as an elected official, I'd like the opportunity to consult with NHMA Legal and just see if stipends were offered to elected officials, could individuals decline to receive that stipend?
Yeah, and here's another part of my side. I definitely agree that all of you should keep your stipend. Like, this is where I also have a bit of a conflict of interest. Like, you did get elected knowing that there was gonna be a stipend. Same with everybody else that had a stipend. I think that should finish out until the point in time when you actually finish. I think Richard and I are a bit of different stance. Like, we saw what happened in the budget committee. In fact, Richard participated in the budget committee doing that. I didn't come here knowing that there was gonna be pay. I came here knowing there wasn't gonna be pay. However, I still feel very strongly that I think everybody that was getting paid should actually be able to finish out their contractual term to do that. It's just the right thing and ethical thing to do. I wanna know if, like, for me personally, if I can, like, not accept it, or if I have to donate it back, then I will. I just need to know if I have to pay tax on it, that's all.
We can have an affirmative answer
You wanna bring it
for
on
you.
Monday then?
Yeah, I'll put that up for a vote on Monday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, motion, Mark?
motion to go into non-public RSA 91A:3, 2A compensation and B hiring. Anything else?
No, that's it.
That's it.
Second.
Motion by Mark, second by Jim. It's a roll call vote.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes. And then that'll conclude tonight's public portion of the meeting. Thank you.